the wild passionflower vine thrives. In the warmth of the subtropical afternoon sun, complex botanical geometry, resting quietly among the broad, veined green leaves, notice the subtle movement. As the sepals gently pull back to reveal the core, hundreds of delicate corona filaments, arranged in perfect radial symmetry to catch the light. Each filament acts as a biological receiver, drawing energy from the radiant afternoon sun. Deep within this geometric matrix, microscopic plant cells are busy synthesizing calming flavonoids, compounds like chrysin and apigenin. Slowly forming beneath the translucent dermal layers, a specialized tendril reaches out, utilizing thigmotropism to anchor the expanding vine securely. The cellular tension adjusts, curling slowly with a quiet, deliberate botanical intelligence. Surrounding the bloom, the native ecosystem hums with the soft vibration of passing pollinators at the very heart of the radial structure. The protective core waits in silence, microscopic nectar glands along the stem, quietly releasing sweet compounds into the warm air. The architectural precision of the passionflower evolved to optimize solar absorption and energy flow. The radial structure mirrors the sun itself, a miniature solar system constructed of organic matter, a single bead of native moisture, resting on the velvet texture of the central stigma. As the afternoon stretches out, the shadows among the vines begin to lengthen gently. Clusters of unopened buds wait, suspended in the warm and tranquil subtropical air, their waxy protective surface, shielding the delicate floral machinery developing gracefully within. A native worker ant traverses the stem, seeking the sweet nectar glands along the vine. This symbiotic relationship maintains the health and balance of the microecosystem perfectly. Viewed from a profile angle, the passionflower reveals its structural depth and perfect balance. Notice the intricate purple banding, running precisely along the length of each delicate filament. Shafts of bright sunlight pierce the canopy, illuminating the airborne pollen like floating gold. The entire living wall breathes, a synchronized movement of broad leaves in the wind. Along the serrated edges of a mature leaf, chlorophyll continues its quiet alchemy unbothered. The coiled tendrils hold firm, transferring the weight of the growing plant with ease. Cellular pressure at the point of contact demonstrates a highly evolved sensitivity to touch. High above the colorful corona, the three-pronged stigma waits to receive vital genetic material. Its velvety surface structure, designed specifically to catch and hold golden pollen grains securely. The golden hour approaches, bathing the complex radial geometry in a warm, healing light. As the ambient temperature gradually drops, the internal metabolism of the vine begins to slow. Microscopic stomata on the underside of each leaf slowly constrict to conserve vital hydration. The vibrant purple corona filaments respond, curving inward by fractions of a millimeter. A native twilight moth settles on a broad leaf, entering a state of absolute stillness. Golden pollen grains on the high anthers catch the very last rays of amber sunlight. Cellular activity within the translucent botanical tissues shifts gracefully from active photosynthesis to quiet respiration. The entire subtropical canopy embraces the transition, releasing the day's accumulated heat into the atmosphere. The tightly coiled tendrils remain perfectly still, anchoring the heavy foliage in the windless evening. Deep within the radial geometric matrix, the soothing synthesis of apigenin reaches its natural peak. As the warm air cools, a single microdroplet of condensation forms on a velvet filament. The surrounding light shifts to a luminous indigo, casting a gentle optical softness over the petals. Every microscopic vein and cellular ridge stands out sharply against the dimming atmospheric glow. Faint ambient moonlight reflects off the waxy leaves, ensuring the botanical architecture remains clearly visible. A tiny pool of nectar at the base acts as a flawless mirror for the twilight sky. The complex plant organism enters a profound suspension, drifting peacefully within the quiet wilderness. As the night deepens over the subtropical canopy, the botanical architecture surrenders entirely, folding its intricate geometric structures into a state of deep and silent restoration, releasing the last traces of daily energy into the cool, still night air. A heavy drop of evening dew gathers, anchoring the quiet weight of the darkness, acting as a perfect, undisturbed lens for the faint and silvery lunar light, while the massive cellular network below drifts into a profound botanical slumber. The coiled tendril maintains its gentle grip, ensuring absolute safety through the night, allowing every internal microscopic fiber to relax and release all remaining tension under a soft, protective canopy of leaves, bathed in a luminous indigo calm. Deep within the closed floral matrix, the anthers and stigmas rest in perfect harmony, bathed in a slow and rhythmic stillness that echoes the deep planetary rotation. Letting go of the waking world entirely, embracing the vast and quiet release, the native habitat breathes as one single organism, wrapped in a peaceful, silver blanket, drifting deeper into a profound biological rest. Safe within the vibrant nocturnal ecosystem until the morning light returns, resting now in absolute and unbroken peace, in the absolute stillness of the nocturnal forest. Microscopic moisture continues to gather at the base of the sturdy vine. A faint bioluminescent moss provides a gentle glow beneath the surface. A complex network of root hairs quietly absorbs essential night minerals, sheltered beneath a broad leaf. The native moth remains anchored in its deeply dreamless state. The tightly folded sepals of the passionflower form an impenetrable shield against the cool air. Above the resting canopy, distant constellations slowly rotate across the deep and luminous indigo sky. The microscopic stomata remain tightly sealed, locking the vital hydration safely within the plant tissue. The structural tendrils hold their position flawlessly, requiring absolute zero active energy to maintain their grip. A single drop of water at the leaf tip mirrors the vastness of the distant rotating galaxy. The smooth vascular tissue of the central stem rests in a state of perfectly balanced biological equilibrium. A gentle nocturnal breeze passes through the vines, creating a beautifully slow and hypnotic swaying motion. The insulating trichomes on the bud surface capture tiny pockets of warm air for ultimate protection, safely hidden inside the securely closed bloom. The complex biochemical structures calmly reset for the dawn. The entire wild ecosystem exists in pure harmony, a silent biological rhythm drifting effortlessly through time. Nothing is rushed in this deep nocturnal state. Everything simply exists in a profoundly safe embrace. As the nocturnal cycle reaches its deepest and most profound plateau, the cellular architecture of the passionflower rests in complete stasis, conserving every molecule of energy in the cool, windless atmosphere. Heavy condensation settles across the broad network of resting leaves, forming perfect, undisturbed liquid spheres that magnify the faint moonlight. Beneath the soil, the symbiotic fungal network pulses silently, sharing moisture and nutrients with the dormant roots above. The tightly sealed bloom maintains its internal thermal protection, shielding the delicate reproductive core from the midnight temperature drop. Even the native pollinators sleep soundly within the dense foliage, anchored securely to the underside of the waxy botanical canopy. The entire vine exists in a state of suspended animation, a masterclass in biological efficiency and passive natural endurance. Above, the luminous indigo sky continues its slow celestial rotation, holding the quiet wilderness in a deeply restorative and timeless embrace. In the profound quiet of the midnight hours, the biological matrix continues its passive purification. Microscopic hydatodes situated at the very edges of the broad leaves quietly release excess internal root pressure through the slow process of guttation, forming perfect, heavy spheres of pure, filtered xylem sap that rest like cool liquid diamonds under the gentle silver light. Deep within the structural core of the sleeping vine, passive water transport continues upwards without a single physical movement, sustaining the complex biological matrix in complete and absolute silence. The surrounding air remains perfectly still and comfortably cool, creating an incredibly stable microclimate for the resting flora. Every specialized cell undergoes its vital nocturnal repair, rebuilding delicate inner tissues away from the harsh solar radiation. The tightly coiled tendrils remain utterly and perfectly unchanged, anchoring the resting ecosystem with an effortless and ancient geometry. As the subtropical night stretches endlessly into the quiet dark, as the lunar light traces a slow arc across the indigo sky, new silver highlights slowly reveal the hidden geometry of the sleeping vines, illuminating the microscopic insulating hairs that protect the dormant floral core. The complex vascular map on the leaf surface catches the cool reflection, highlighting the flawless biological engineering that requires absolutely no waking effort. The entire botanical structure remains suspended in an unbroken nocturnal equilibrium, while the midnight condensation reaches its maximum point of physical tension. A single, massive liquid sphere stretches heavily toward the dark earth below, yet it holds perfectly in place through the microscopic power of surface tension. Beneath the liquid weight, the cellular stomata remain firmly locked and sealed, safely protecting the internal hydration reserves for the distant morning sun. The sleeping native moth blends seamlessly into the protective veined architecture, sharing a profound and quiet safety within the deep botanical sanctuary. Down at the forest floor, faint cyan bioluminescence pulses with infinite slowness, grounding the massive sleeping organism in a state of absolute eternal rest. In the deepest hours of the nocturnal cycle, the biological organism enters a state of minimal basal metabolism, where cellular respiration drops to an absolute whisper, safeguarding every microscopic molecule of stored energy within the shielded chambers of the closed botanical structures. The slow and quiet synthesis of complex compounds continues. Flavonoids like chrysin and apigenin gather slowly, deep inside the darkened and restful plant tissue, insulated entirely from the cooling atmospheric currents by the dense layers of fuzzy protective trichomes. As the massive vine network rests in profound thermal stability, anchored securely to the earth, mirrored perfectly by the heavy, silent spheres of midnight condensation, resting on the broad leaves, hanging suspended in a flawless balance of planetary gravity and microscopic botanical surface tension, while the surrounding microfauna remain firmly anchored, lost completely in their deep and dreamless torpor, held safe by the effortless, mechanical perfection of the coiled tendrils, gripping the textured wood, rooted deeply in the ancient, softly glowing forest floor, sharing a quiet subterranean biological rhythm, a vast and interconnected web of quiet, pulsing life, functioning perfectly without a single conscious thought, allowing the heavy weight of physical existence to dissolve entirely into the cool night air, as the slowly rotating celestial bodies track a silent path across the luminous indigo sky, drifting peacefully through the quiet vastness, wrapped forever in the untroubled safety of the dark. As the nocturnal descent continues into the quietest fragment of the night, the waxy cuticle of every leaf becomes a flawless shield of silver light, reflecting the ambient lunar glow while preserving the vital, resting internal moisture. Microscopic stomatal pores remain perfectly locked, forming an unbroken seal against the cool dark. Beside the resting native moth, heavy beads of condensation achieve their maximum physical weight, acting as miniature, tranquil observatories for the slow rotation of the distant galaxy. The coiled tendrils maintain their effortless grip, a testament to ancient, passive biological strength. Deep below the resting canopy, the forest floor hums with a faint Cyan glow, where microscopic fungal threads gently exchange quiet nourishment with the dormant plant roots, sustaining the deep cellular architecture without the need for a single waking movement. Heavy vines hang motionless in the windless air, surrendering completely to planetary gravity, while the strong connective tissues at the base of each leaf simply let go. Dense insulating trichomes trap microscopic layers of warmth, ensuring absolute thermal stability until dawn. The massive biological organism breathes as one, bathed in the luminous indigo night sky, resting completely and perfectly safe in the deepest, most quiet descent of the dark. Within this profound biological plateau, the sprawling architecture of the vine enters total stasis, relying entirely on the ancient biomechanical strength of its hardened cellular walls, while the coiled tendrils maintain an unbreakable, passive lock on the surrounding branches, requiring zero active energy to hold the massive weight of the sleeping organism. Above, the broad leaves droop heavily under the accumulating weight of midnight condensation. A flawless sphere of pure water gathers at the very tip of the dark foliage, stretching the boundaries of liquid physics as it hangs completely undisturbed in the air. Nearby, the native moth remains anchored in its deeply hypnotic and motionless state, its delicate wings resting flush against the prominent green veins of the protective canopy. Below the surface, the subterranean root system slumbers in the cool, nutrient-rich soil, bathed in the microscopic, highly subtle cyan glow of the dormant fungal network. The tightly sealed floral bud waits in utter darkness, perfectly insulated from the midnight chill, its internal reproductive organs resting safely in a state of suspended cellular animation. The entire massive organism floats silently through the quiet vastness of the rotating planet, anchored in perfect peace, far removed from the waking world of light and sound. As the surrounding air reaches its absolute minimum temperature, the internal osmotic pressure of the plant cells equalizes perfectly, halting the upward flow of the transpiration stream completely, leaving the massive vascular network suspended in pure equilibrium. Every microscopic droplet of internal moisture remains perfectly static, held securely within the rigid cellulose walls of the sleeping plant, preventing any vital hydration from escaping into the cool night atmosphere. The broad leaves maintain their heavy, drooping posture without effort, acting as massive, silent catchments for the falling midnight dew, which gathers along the prominent green veins like liquid silver. Below the resting canopy, the forest floor continues its silent biological breath, as the mycelial network slowly processes the fallen organic matter, releasing microscopic waves of thermal energy back into the quiet earth. The entire wild passionflower vine exists in a state of flawless, undisturbed rest, anchoring the peaceful night within its deep and eternal botanical architecture. As the nocturnal cycle approaches its final and most profound nadir, the biological temperature of the resting flora reaches its absolute minimum, locking every drop of vital hydration safely within the cellular vaults. A heavy stillness settles over the microscopic landscape of the leaves, where massive spheres of accumulated dew hold their flawless geometric shapes. Deep below the heavy foliage, the subterranean rhythm slows even further, as the faint cyan bioluminescence of the resting moss gently dims, yielding quietly to the vast, rotating expanse of the starry sky. The coiled tendrils maintain their unwavering anchor against the rough wood, requiring no active thought or energy to secure the massive organism. The tightly sealed floral bud rests in a state of perfect isolation, its internal reproductive architecture suspended entirely in the cool, silent dark. Every vein and cellular ridge stands frozen in the silver light, a masterpiece of passive natural engineering waiting for the distant dawn, while the wild ecosystem breathes as one, united in deep rest, as the slow rotation of the Earth pulls the dark canopy toward astronomical dawn. The deep indigo sky begins a microscopic shift into a faint and cooling blue, triggering an ancient and silent biological response deep within the sleeping vines. The heavy spheres of midnight condensation catch this new and subtle atmospheric frequency, acting as perfectly still and quiet prisms for the changing planetary light. At the cellular level, the stomatal pores remain securely locked and fully sealed, patiently waiting in the cool air for the thermal signals of the approaching solar radiation. The native moth remains anchored in its deep torpor beneath the broad leaves, resting completely undisturbed by the subtle turning of the distant celestial sphere above. Below the resting canopy, the cyan bioluminescence of the forest floor slowly fades, yielding its gentle nocturnal energy to the subtle arrival of the pre-dawn atmosphere. The microscopic fungal network continues its quiet subterranean rhythm in the dark soil, maintaining absolute biological stability while the massive plant above begins its slow transition. The towering central stem stands firm against the fading starlight of the night, holding the entire resting ecosystem in a state of flawless, suspended anticipation. As civil dawn crests over the distant horizon, the atmosphere shifts to a soft, warming peach. Microscopic photoreceptors within the leaf tissue immediately detect the arriving red light spectrum, initiating a deeply silent and microscopic chemical cascade throughout the resting vascular network. The massive spheres of midnight do act as optical prisms for the rising sun, casting a gentle, warming glow over the native fauna still locked in deep torpor. At the microscopic boundary, the stomatal guard cells sense the thermal shift, preparing to slowly unlock and resume the vital transpiration stream of the new day. The dense, fuzzy trichomes capture the first gentle rays, trapping the solar warmth instantly. Down at the forest floor, the cyan bioluminescence has vanished completely into the daylight. As the subterranean roots feel the microscopic shift in thermal energy from above, the sturdy central pillar of the vine absorbs the golden light flawlessly, and the heavy midnight condensation slowly begins the silent process of morning evaporation. A single direct ray pierces the canopy, turning the translucent leaves into a biological stained glass. The entire sleeping ecosystem embraces the return of the sun with perfect patience, anchoring the conclusion of its deep nocturnal rest. Completely restored and utterly safe, as the morning sun rises higher into the clear subtropical sky, the microscopic guard cells slowly unseal the leaf stomata, allowing the heavy midnight condensation to gently evaporate into the warming air, releasing the massive botanical structure from its nocturnal weight, while fresh water is pulled steadily up from the deep earth, increasing the internal turgor pressure within the tightly folded buds, preparing the ancient floral machinery for a new cycle of expansion. Under the bright and boundless canopy of the waking forest, nearby, the native pollinators stir slowly from their deep torpor, warming their microscopic flight muscles in the direct rays of the sun, as the green tendrils adjust their grip with effortless mechanical precision, absorbing the vital solar radiation to fuel the internal cellular flow. The entire living wall of vines sways gently in the morning breeze, a massive and silent network of pure biological energy, beginning the slow and hypnotic unfurling of its geometric core, driven by intense osmotic pressure. The thick green sepals fold backward with deliberate mechanical force, releasing the tightly packed purple corona filaments from their highly secure protective nocturnal chamber. Rapid cellular expansion drives fluids into the microscopic vessels of the crumpled threads, causing them to straighten and fan outward into a flawless display of radial symmetry. Above the expanding filaments, the central column rises steadily toward the warming solar radiation, where the heavy anthers slowly rotate downward to expose their golden pollen to the air. The complex biological geometry of the passionflower reveals its ultimate evolutionary design, a hypnotic matrix of purple and white bands engineered to guide native pollinators directly inward, drawn by the sudden release of volatile organic compounds. A single bee enters the frame, navigating the intricate biological landing pad with absolute precision and quiet intention. Deep at the base of the receptacle, clear nectar pools rapidly in the rising heat, casting sharp, intricate shadows across the translucent petals beneath the bright morning sun. Across the massive subtropical vine, dozens of identical blooms mirror this exact biological unfurling, held securely against the morning breeze by the unwavering grip of the coiled tendrils, basking perfectly open and vulnerable in the rich, life-sustaining light of the new day. As the morning sun climbs toward its brilliant zenith, the subtropical ecosystem enters perfect equilibrium, and the native pollinator begins its slow and methodical harvest of the golden nectar. Microscopic pollen grains cling effortlessly to the fuzzy, static-charged hairs of the resting insect, a beautiful, silent exchange of biological data facilitated entirely by the warming solar rays. With measured precision, the golden genetic material is transferred to the velvety green stigma, completing an ancient and flawless cycle of botanical reproduction without a single wasted movement. The pollinator gently departs, leaving the vibrantly colored bloom resting safely in the bright sunlight, while deep within the sturdy green stems, the immense power of the xylem activates, driven by the intense solar evaporation above. A silent river of clear water flows upward, defying planetary gravity through the miraculous cohesion and microscopic tension of pure water molecules. This quiet, internal current cools the broad, translucent leaves against the radiant midday heat, acting as a flawless botanical air conditioner for the entire sprawling subtropical canopy. Every cellular mechanism operates in complete and utterly frictionless harmony with the blazing star above, bathing the massive, living wall of vines in a deeply restorative and energetic warmth. The pollinated bloom basks quietly in the golden light, its biological purpose beautifully fulfilled. As the intense midday sun reaches its absolute peak, a subtle shift occurs across the canopy. The broad leaves naturally position themselves to catch the cooling relief of the shifting shadows, entering a brief and restful state of midday depression to conserve their precious internal hydration. Microscopic stomata partially close against the intense solar radiation, prioritizing cellular stability over continuous growth, while the complex geometric structure of the passionflower simply absorbs the bright ambient heat. Dappled sunlight filters down through the higher branches, casting slow and hypnotic patterns across the vines, a quiet biological pause that allows the vascular network to catch its botanical breath. The native ecosystem slows its frantic morning pace, surrendering to the warm and heavy midday air. Even the tiny pollinators seek shelter beneath the vibrant green canopy, resting quietly until late afternoon. Deep within the thick central stem, the rapid upward flow of water settles into a steady, calming rhythm, ensuring perfect turgor pressure is maintained across every single microscopic cell of the sprawling plant. The purple corona filaments bask lazily in the filtered light, completely undisturbed by the shifting winds, a masterclass in passive thermal regulation. Operating without a single conscious thought or wasted physical movement, the massive living wall breathes slowly in the dappled shade, existing purely in the present moment, anchored deeply into the cool earth below, waiting patiently for the golden hours of the late afternoon. As the sun begins its slow descent toward the western horizon, the light softens into gold. The microscopic stomatal pores subtly relax their midday defensive seal, allowing the plant to breathe freely, while the brilliant purple corona filaments bask in the incredibly rich and warming late afternoon rays. The remaining pollen grains on the high anthers catch the shifting solar angles perfectly, while the perfectly coiled green tendrils maintain their flawless and effortless grip on the ancient wood. Native pollinators finish their final quiet harvest, slowly navigating back to their hidden nocturnal sanctuaries. Internal fluid pressure stabilizes across the massive botanical network as the active transpiration stream gently slows, signaling a deep biological shift from active cellular growth to a state of profound evening preservation. The complex geometric bloom begins the incredibly slow process of reversing its morning anthesis, shifting internal water pressure at the base of each petal to initiate the protective nocturnal fold. Across the entire sprawling vine, thousands of leaves prepare to enter their deep and dreamless resting phase, the fuzzy, insulating trichomes catching the ambient warmth to secure the microclimate for the coming night. Down in the rich earth, the subterranean root system continues its slow and quiet symbiotic exchange, as long, cooling shadows gently stretch across the lush and undisturbed subtropical forest floor, wrapping the complex botanical architecture in a profoundly safe and deeply restorative golden embrace. As the golden hour gives way to the luminous twilight, the ambient temperature gently drops. The sprawling botanical architecture continues its incredibly slow and hypnotic Nyctinastic folding, safely enclosing the delicate purple corona within the sturdy, protective green sepals. Across the dense and quiet canopy, countless blossoms mirror this synchronized biological retreat, forming a perfectly sealed and waterproof dermal layer against the cooling evening air. Atmospheric moisture begins to condense microscopically along the finely serrated edges of the leaves, while the structural tendrils hold the massive organism with effortless and ancient stability. Above, the soft magenta and indigo hues of the twilight sky filter slowly downward, blanketing the sleeping native fauna in a deeply quiet and entirely motionless sanctuary. The microscopic insulating trichomes trap the very last remnants of the day's solar warmth. As the internal vascular flow settles into an almost imperceptible and deeply resting pulse, down in the soft earth, the faint sigh and bioluminescence of the forest floor slowly returns, reawakening the quiet, subterranean fungal network for its gentle and continuous nocturnal exchange. Suspended safely in the cool air, the fully closed botanical vault rests in absolute perfection, entering the deep evening with a profound sense of unending, tranquil, and eternal security. As the silver moon ascends to its highest point in the clear subtropical sky, the dropping atmospheric temperature allows heavy, pristine spheres of nocturnal condensation to fully mature, each microscopic droplet acting as a flawless, quiet mirror for the shifting lunar light, while the sealed cellular stomata maintain an absolute and unwavering internal osmotic equilibrium, safely isolating the delicate internal structures from the coldest hours of the deep night. The rigid coiled tendrils maintain their perfect geometric grip without the slightest physical effort, anchoring the massive botanical architecture firmly against the slow, breathing currents of evening air. Down below, the ancient forest floor hums with a faint and steady cyan bioluminescence, as the symbiotic fungal network continues its microscopic, quiet exchange of water and minerals. Beneath the broad protective leaves, the native pollinator rests in an entirely motionless torpor, its intricate powdery wings blending seamlessly into the dark, veined geometry of the plant. The thick central stem stands as a silent pillar of immense, passive biological strength, holding the suspended fluid pressure perfectly balanced within its hardened, woody cellular walls. The entire sprawling vine network exists in a state of suspended, peaceful, and eternal rest, waiting with absolute patience in the glowing, silver stillness of the deep midnight landscape. As the night deepens into its most suspended hour, the boundaries of time begin to dissolve, entering a profound hypnagogic state where every biological process slows to a hypnotic crawl. The complex geometric patterns of the resting foliage lock into perfect, unwavering physical alignment, holding the massive living structure in a trance of pure, effortless mechanical suspension. Heavy drops of nocturnal condensation act as microscopic magnifying lenses, distorting the silver light, revealing the intricate and repeating fractal nature of the underlying botanical cellulose architecture. Every closed stomatal pore forms a flawless grid, sealing the internal hydration away completely, maintaining a deeply balanced internal pressure against the cool, quiet weight of the night. Down below, the faint cyan glow of the fungal network pulses with extreme slowness, a silent, subterranean heartbeat echoing the vast and quiet rhythm of the dormant forest. The sleeping native moth remains perfectly camouflaged, blending its physical form into the shadows, wrapped completely in the safe, unmoving sanctuary of the broad and heavy protective leaves. Above, the luminous indigo sky holds the distant, rotating stars in a timeless embrace, mirroring the profound, undisturbed stillness of the sprawling subtropical vine resting silently below. The tightly sealed floral bud floats in the silver air, perfectly suspended in time. The intricate biological lattice of the plant tissue maps a flawless geometric divergence, where intersecting veins form a perfect cradle for the swelling nocturnal dew. At the very apex of the vine, the resting floral bud exhibits a sacred spiral fold, locking the overlapping green sepals into a tightly sealed and impenetrable dome. Even the microscopic cellular ridges along the coiled tendrils follow a rigid mathematical sequence, anchoring the massive sprawling organism securely beneath the luminous indigo canopy. The dormant native moth rests seamlessly within this structural grid, its powdery wings mimicking the fractal repetition of the broad leaves precisely. Deep along the ancient bark, the Cyan bioluminescence reveals the geometry of the moss, a delicate, glowing web of fungal threads mirroring the neural pathways of the earth. A heavy sphere of pure condensation catches the faint silver light, bending the straight vertical ridges of the central stem through its quiet optical lens. The entire wild subtropical habitat rests in this state of supreme structural balance, a quiet masterpiece of natural physics suspended in the cool, windless atmosphere, drifting further into the deep, restorative geometry of the eternal night. As the deep nocturnal geometry sets perfectly in place across the resting canopy, the internal metabolic circulation of the plant enters its slowest and most hypnotic rhythm, requiring almost zero active energy to maintain its flawless structural integrity in the cool air. Microscopic droplets of condensation continue to gather silently along the waxy and serrated leaf margins, acting as tiny, perfect containment vessels for the faint and shifting lunar light from above. Beneath the resting vines, the cool earth maintains a steady and ancient thermal signature, where the symbiotic fungal network pulses with incredibly slow and deliberate bioelectric signals, sharing essential trace minerals with the dormant root system under the faint cyan glow. The native moth rests completely undisturbed within the sheltered geometry of the overlapping leaves, its delicate physical form blending seamlessly into the vast and sleeping botanical matrix. Within the sturdy central column, the passive flow of water settles into a profound equilibrium, as the microscopic stomatal guard cells remain firmly and perfectly sealed against the night air. Above the sprawling vines, the luminous indigo sky continues its eternal and silent rotation, blanketing the entire subtropical ecosystem in a deeply protective and restorative silver atmosphere, holding the delicate floral machinery in a state of flawless, suspended animation until tomorrow, as the atmospheric humidity reaches its absolute saturation point in the quiet forest. A heavy, seamless layer of crystalline condensation coats the sprawling botanical architecture, turning every microscopic leaf margin into a flawless, static mirror for the cosmos. The waxy green tendrils hold their grip effortlessly against the slick, damp bark, relying on the ancient passive mechanical tension locked deep within their rigid cellulose walls. Beneath this wet and heavy canopy, the sleeping native moth remains perfectly dry, its microscopic, powdery scales naturally repelling the ambient moisture with effortless biological efficiency. Down at the base of the massive vine, the earthy Cyan bioluminescence remains steady, as the subterranean fungal threads continue their slow, silent pulse of thermal energy, maintaining a perfectly regulated microclimate around the dormant, sleeping roots of the Passionflower. The thick central vascular pillar stands as a monument to profound, unmoving biological endurance, its microscopic stomatal valves locked firmly to preserve the precious internal cellular hydration. The entire ecosystem drifts through the deepest, coldest phase of the terrestrial night, wrapped completely in a protective, luminous blanket of silver moonlight and deep shadows, anchored in absolute, unwavering safety until the distant, slow turning of the dawn. In the profound and undisturbed silence of the deeply suspended nocturnal plateau, the accumulated weight of the midnight dew reaches its absolute physical limit, causing the broad, waxy leaves to bow gently toward the damp forest floor, while the rigid, coiled tendrils absorb the microscopic shift in botanical tension, distributing the new physical weight flawlessly across the ancient and sturdy cellulose architecture. The native moth remains perfectly still beneath the safe and drooping green canopy, its complex powdery scales remaining completely immune to the heavy atmospheric moisture. Deep beneath the surface, the faint cyan bioluminescence of the ancient moss pulses softly, guiding the microscopic fungal network through its incredibly slow and continuous cycle of soil repair, providing steady, passive thermal energy directly to the dormant roots of the sleeping passionflower. Above the soil, a single sphere of condensation captures the cold, distant starlight perfectly, acting as a flawless botanical lens suspended quietly in the cool, dark night air, while the massive celestial sphere rotates overhead with immense, silent, and unending precision. The entire subtropical ecosystem exists in a state of perfectly balanced and undisturbed equilibrium, holding its geometric floral core incredibly safe within the deep and protective silver shadows. In the deepest and most profound fragment of the nocturnal cycle, the massive botanical structure enters a state of near-molecular stasis, where cellular respiration drops to an absolute and undetectable minimum, suspending the heavy biological weight in perfect, unwavering equilibrium. At the microscopic edges of the broad and waxy foliage, perfect spheres of heavy condensation lock into flawless geometric tension, held firmly against the cool air by the immense passive power of the plant's architecture. Deep within the soft earth, the subterranean ecosystem mirrors this profound stillness, as the cyan bioluminescence of the fungal web settles into a microscopic hum. The native pollinators remain entirely hidden within the protective green shadows, their microscopic, powdery forms merging perfectly with the resting leaf veins. The sturdy central pillar of the vine acts as a silent anchor, maintaining the incredibly stable internal hydration of every dormant cell. Beneath the vast, rotating expanse of the luminous indigo atmosphere, anchored in the eternal, ancient, and deeply restorative safety of the dark. Within this absolute physical stillness, the biological matrix begins its deepest phase of internal restoration. As microscopic cellular factories silently degrade stored daytime starches into vital sustaining sugars, fueling the highly complex and slow synthesis of calming flavonoids deep within the plant tissue, This profound internal chemistry requires absolute and unwavering physical stillness, supported from below by the continuous, quiet delivery of trace minerals from the deep earth, as the subterranean mycorrhizal network slowly repairs its own microscopic threads in the dark. These vital elements travel upward through the sturdy central vascular pillar, reinforcing the rigid lignin walls of the coiled tendrils to ensure their permanent grip. Within this protective botanical grid, the native moth undergoes its own quiet cellular repair, its powdery wings regenerating microscopic layers of hydrophobic scales in the profound dark. The tightly sealed floral bud allocates every microscopic unit of stored energy, slowly developing the vivid purple pigments of its inner corona entirely shielded from view. Above, the infinite celestial architecture mirrors this quiet process of eternal renewal. As the entire wild passionflower vine heals and fortifies its massive structure in unison, resting perfectly suspended within the flawless and deeply silent geometry of the long night. As the nocturnal cycle crosses its absolute deepest threshold, the wild passionflower exists in a state of absolute and permanent physical stasis, relying entirely on the ancient passive mechanics of its rigid cellulose architecture to hold its massive, sprawling weight flawlessly against the quiet pull of planetary gravity. Every drop of atmospheric condensation has reached its maximum physical volume, stretching the microscopic boundaries of liquid surface tension to their absolute limit, yet holding perfectly firm against the waxy dermal layers of the dark foliage. Below the quiet surface, the Earth maintains its slow and steady thermal rhythm, nourished by the continuous microscopic exchange of the luminous fungal network, which anchors the massive organism firmly into the deep and damp subtropical soil. The tightly sealed floral buds remain perfectly isolated from the cool night air, safeguarding their complex internal pigments and resting reproductive geometry, while the vast, indigo atmosphere rotates silently above the resting canopy, suspending the entire living ecosystem in a flawless, uninterrupted equilibrium, drifting peacefully through the eternal and restorative silence of the deep night. As the nocturnal cycle extends into its deepest, uncharted hours, the massive biological entity surrenders completely to the cooling atmosphere, entering a state of absolute, uninterrupted cellular quiescence, where the vital exchange of microscopic gases halts entirely, preserving the internal hydration of the waxy leaves with flawless efficiency. Every suspended water droplet maintains its maximum physical density, locking the faint silver moonlight within their perfect spherical boundaries, without a single vibration to disrupt their flawless optical geometry. Below the massive canopy, the dark earth holds a steady, ancient temperature, radiating a deeply subtle cyan glow from the resting fungal threads, which wrap securely around the dormant subterranean root system. The sturdy, coiled tendrils anchor the heavy vines in complete silence, bearing the sheer weight of the sleeping organism effortlessly, as the luminous indigo sky continues its slow, distant rotation, wrapping the quiet forest in an unbroken and eternal midnight stasis. As the terrestrial environment settles into a profound microhibernation, the waxy dermal layers of the foliage completely arrest their outward cellular expansion, holding the complex floral geometry in a state of perfectly suspended developmental stasis, where dense insulating trichomes trap the microscopic traces of latent thermal energy, preventing the heavy, saturated leaves from surrendering entirely to the ambient midnight chill, as flawless spheres of condensed moisture act as static, silent observers of the passing night. Beneath this damp and protective green ceiling, the native microfauna remain utterly still, their physical forms blending flawlessly into the rigid, ancient patterns of the resting vines. Down in the soft, dark earth, the biological rhythm continues at its absolute slowest frequency, where the glowing Cyan mycelium processes organic matter with unhurried, mechanical precision, anchoring the immense vertical weight of the botanical structure directly to the forest floor, supported from above by the flawless, passive tension of the coiled green tendrils, beneath a vast, luminous indigo sky that rotates with endless, quiet inevitability, maintaining the entire subtropical habitat in a perfectly secure and stable equilibrium, safe within the eternal, undisturbed silence of the deep midnight architecture, as the late nocturnal plateau stretches endlessly across the forest. The atmospheric vapor pressure stabilizes perfectly in the cool midnight air, allowing the waxy dermal layers to securely lock in the vital microscopic moisture, while heavy, spherical drops of condensation act as passive thermal buffers, weighing down the broad, dark foliage into a deeply restorative and motionless slumber. The ancient, coiled tendrils absorb this immense physical burden without effort, locking the massive botanical network firmly against the static, slick bark. Deep below the quiet surface, the dark earth maintains its steady core temperature, fueled by the continuous, slow-pulsing cyan light of the intricate fungal web, sharing essential trace elements with the thick, dormant roots resting in the moss. The resting native microfauna remain entirely motionless within this grid, their powdery wings completely immune to the heavy, saturating night dew, as minimal dark respiration continues quietly within the sturdy central stem, under the vast, luminous indigo expanse of the slowly turning galaxy, holding the delicate floral machinery in absolute and eternal safety, as the internal biological clock of the resting organism senses the approaching cycle. A microscopic circadian anticipation begins to stir within the deepest cellular layers, while the tightly sealed floral buds maintain their absolute and protective nocturnal closure, locking the complex internal pigments safely away from the dropping atmospheric temperatures. Heavy, perfectly round spheres of condensation continue to weight the broad, waxy leaves, acting as flawless microscopic lenses that capture the slow turning of the distant galaxy. The ancient, coiled tendrils hold the immense botanical architecture firmly in place, anchored securely above the faint cyan bioluminescence of the cool, damp forest floor, where the subterranean fungal network pulses with a steady, restorative, and silent energy. The native microfauna remain deeply hidden within the structural geometry of the vines, their powdery wings blending perfectly into the veined and rigid plant tissues, supported from below by the flawless, vertical strength of the sturdy central stem, which channels a quiet, stabilizing hydrostatic pressure throughout the massive organism, beneath the endless, luminous expanse of the deeply indigo and star-filled atmosphere, waiting in absolute, uninterrupted safety for the very first signals of the distant dawn. As the final stretch of the deep nocturnal cycle takes hold, the ambient temperature reaches its absolute pre-dawn minimum, locking the botanical structures into a state of supreme physical conservation. The massive canopy hangs heavily under the maximum accumulation of atmospheric dew, where each flawless sphere of water acts as a silent micro-reservoir, held firmly against the gravitational pull by the ancient coiled tendrils. Down at the base of the organism, the deep earth begins to shift its thermal gradient, causing the subterranean fungal network to slowly taper its bioluminescent pulse. Within the sheltered, overlapping geometry of the broad leaves, the sleeping native microfauna maintain their flawless, motionless camouflage, anchored safely upon the sturdy, rigid cellulose walls of the main stem. Microscopic insulating trichomes hold the final, fading traces of trapped warmth, beneath a vast indigo sky that slowly begins to pale at its eastern edge. The entire subtropical ecosystem breathes in profound, uninterrupted synchrony, waiting patiently in the cool, silent dark for the astronomical shift to begin. as the distant horizon begins to scatter the very first traces of solar radiation. The deep indigo of the nocturnal sky shifts microscopically into a faint, cold blue, signaling the absolute end of the atmospheric temperature inversion. Across the broad and heavy leaves, maximum condensation holds its physical boundaries, turning perfectly round spheres of dew into cold optical prisms, while the sturdy vertical architecture of the central stem waits in total silence, maintaining the quiet hydrostatic pressure accumulated over the long night. The rigid, coiled tendrils sustain their flawless mechanical grip, as the deep subterranean ecosystem senses the subtle barometric change above, causing the faint cyan bioluminescence of the fungal web to slowly fade into the earth, hidden safely within the damp botanical geometry. The native moth remains anchored, its powdery scales completely unaffected by the heavy atmospheric moisture. Above the massive resting organism, the brightest stars begin to dissolve, absorbed slowly by the expanding, luminous gradient of the early dawn, leaving the tightly sealed floral buds suspended in perfect, undisturbed anticipation. As the Earth's rotation brings the star closer to the eastern horizon, the atmospheric scattering transitions fully into nautical dawn, bathing the waxy, dormant leaves in a cold and penetrating steel blue light. Phototropin receptors within the microscopic guard cells begin to register the subtle photon shift, priming the biological machinery for the eventual release of internal hydration. Heavy spheres of nocturnal condensation remain perfectly suspended, acting as highly polished optical instruments reflecting the brightening atmosphere. Down in the damp earth, the cyan bioluminescence has vanished entirely, leaving the thick, woody roots resting quietly in the cold, dark soil. The resting native moth remains locked in its deep torpor, its powdery, hydrophobic wings blending flawlessly into the veined leaf structure. Within the main vascular pillar, a microscopic shift in hydrostatic pressure initiates, as the immense botanical network prepares its internal fluids for the coming evaporation cycle. Above, the remaining stars dissolve entirely into the vast, steel-blue atmospheric dome, leaving the tightly sealed floral bud suspended in the final, quiet moments of the long night. As the Earth's terminator line rotates further toward the star, the atmospheric scattering enters the visible phase of civil dawn, initiating a microscopic thermal shift across the waxy dermal layers, where the heavy spheres of nocturnal condensation begin to absorb the very first subtle wavelengths of warming solar radiation, while the rigid cellulose tendrils maintain their steadfast mechanical grip. Above the deep and silent soil of the damp forest floor, as the subterranean mycorrhizal network senses the subtle shift in thermal gradients, and the dormant microfauna remain sheltered beneath the dripping canopy, their hydrophobic scales completely undisturbed by the shifting atmospheric state. Within the main vascular pillar, the hydrostatic pressure begins to redistribute, preparing the massive botanical architecture for the imminent cycle of transpiration. Beneath a vast, clearing sky that steadily erases the final shadows of the night, bathing the entire wild subtropical ecosystem in a pale, restorative glow, leaving the tightly sealed floral bud perfectly primed for its morning anthesis. As the primary star crests the distant eastern horizon, direct solar radiation initiates the physical evaporation of the nocturnal dew, triggering the microscopic stomatal guard cells to slowly dilate, and formally restarting the complex photochemical engine of the foliage, converting the heavy, static moisture back into atmospheric vapor, allowing the broad, green leaves to gradually lift from their drooping nocturnal posture, while the rigid tendrils smoothly recalibrate their mechanical tension. The sleeping microfauna remain perfectly dry beneath the shifting canopy, as subtle biological impulses begin to break their deep metabolic torpor. Deep within the central vascular pillar, the upward transpiration stream resumes, pulling essential hydration from the cool, sunlit earth below, where the symbiotic fungal network shifts into its daytime exchange cycle, beneath a vast, rapidly clearing atmosphere of brilliant and expanding blue, awakening the entire subtropical ecosystem with a profound and steady influx of thermal energy, and signaling the tightly sealed floral bud that the time for Anthesis has returned. Under the intense and direct radiation of the new morning star, the thick green sepals of the floral bud fracture their perfect nocturnal seal, exposing the highly compressed purple corona filaments to the warming atmospheric air. Massive osmotic pressure drives fluid rapidly into the microscopic vessels, forcing the complex botanical architecture to unfold into flawless radial symmetry. The sturdy central column rises steadily upward to meet the increasing thermal radiation, where the heavy anthers slowly rotate on microscopic joints to expose fresh golden pollen. Beneath the broad leaves, the native microfauna breaks its long nocturnal stasis as the very first diurnal pollinators arrive to resume the ancient mutualistic exchange. Across the sprawling green canopy, millions of microscopic stomata open wide, drawing a massive, silent river of clear hydration upward through the central stem, fueled by the deep and endless reserves of the ancient, sun-warmed earth. Above, the boundless blue atmosphere clears completely. Embracing the new cycle, the entire massive botanical network operates in absolutely flawless, eternal synchrony, a perfect, unending loop of light, water, and pure biological geometry. Under the full, unobstructed intensity of the daytime star, the botanical architecture settles into a continuous and efficient rhythm of active photorespiration. Deep within the translucent dermal layers, countless chloroplasts convert solar radiation into sustaining chemical energy. Native pollinators navigate the open blooms with methodical, unhurried precision, facilitating the essential genetic exchange that guarantees the continuation of the species. Driven by the steady accumulation of solar energy, the massive vine slowly expands its territorial reach, pumping massive volumes of microscopic hydration upward through the rigid xylem channels. Anchored infinitely in the warm, nutrient-rich darkness of the sunlit earth, nearby, smaller, tightly sealed geometric buds quietly absorb the ambient energy, while the broad, waxy leaves bask fully extended, perfectly regulating their internal temperature. The ancient, coiled tendrils maintain their unwavering mechanical grip against the rising thermal drafts. Deep within an older, successfully pollinated bloom, the green ovary begins its slow, steady expansion, driven infinitely forward by the vast, steady radiation of the cloudless blue atmosphere. The massive wild organism exists purely in the present, forever bound to the ancient, perfect turning of the earth, a living, breathing testament to the quiet and eternal resilience of the natural world. Weeks beyond the initial botanical bloom, the cycle reaches its ultimate physical manifestation, a dense, nutrient-rich spherical vault, engineered to protect the next generation of genetic code. The once green tendrils have undergone complete lignification, turning to permanent, hardened wood at the exact point of connection. The abscission zone prepares for the final, deliberate separation. With a microscopic snap, gravity reclaims the heavy biological vessel, returning it safely to the soft, ancient surface of the deep forest floor. As the final light of the season fades into the cool twilight, the subterranean mycelium awakens to embrace the fallen vessel, initiating the incredibly slow, quiet process of organic decomposition and nutrient recycling. Deep within the breaking rind, hundreds of perfectly formed seeds wait in absolute stasis. High above, the older leaves thin out, revealing the vast and turning galaxy once more. The main vascular pillar remains unyielding, preparing to sustain the next cycle. Everything returns to the silent, perfectly calibrated equilibrium of the earth. A single, flawless data capsule, holding the complete blueprint of life, waiting in the profound darkness for the exact moment to begin the loop once again.